Yo, what up guys, it's Flark. And I think that I kinda had to make this video because of reasons. But let me just start things off with saying, like you, I am merely a human being. If that. And here was my first reaction, right up here. Oh, and here's Keter's. So, believe me, I understand where you're coming from. I, too, was and maybe am still a little livid at the changes. But it is my responsibility. I actually have one additional responsibility as a DK content creator to think it over, do the math, think about what's probably coming next, think about the meta and how it will develop, think about the changes as a whole, and make some grounded responses to those so that you may follow in my footstep in the path to righteousness. Because I do believe the DKs will be okay. But they're going to require some important things on Blizzard's part to be done right, and all of that and more will be discussed in this video. So let's get into it. Right, so here are the fateful changes. I have them brought up right up on the screen here. I hope you can see that, but let's talk about it. You can see they are pretty potent. So why people are feeling tense or frustrated or angry or anxious, nervous, whatever emotion you may be feeling, I totally understand it. But let's work through it and see what we can decipher here. So first of all, let's just talk about what each one is. AMS nerfed by 25%. That's just the absorption. That makes sense. Will the Necropolis, the talent, that gave us a passive wall. That's 50% effective in PvP now. AMS duration and amount absorbed from the talent is decreased. So that's about a second of duration and a little bit more of the absorption from the AMS buff from the talent. So that was really good against spell cleaves. You'll probably still run it, but maybe it felt a little too oppressive. The A-bomb limb nerf, this is what gets most people, because even if they're okay with the survivability nerfs, they're not okay with this. Effectively, it makes A-bomb limb just pull somebody like 5 yards once. Like, clearly it just pulls them once. That's written right here on the screen. But what it really doesn't say is that it's going to pull them 5 yards once, because it kind of, as you know, by using the ability, it kind of uses that first grip, and now the only grip, right off the bat when you press it. And that's just going to yank two people a little closer together than they were before, and that's all it's going to do, which is very bizarre because now the ability doesn't have any of its core mechanics. Like, I mean, what it was designed for, I mean, it did a ton of damage, but I don't think it should be. You should nerf the damage of it, if anything. It shouldn't be a damaging cooldown. It should be the yank, right? That's what pulls everybody in. It's grippy hands yanking everybody in over and over. That was the class fantasy of it. Now, again, if you get that first grip within 5 yards, which it generally does, it's kind of just like a slight maneuver of them 2 yards across the map, and it will not do anything else to that player. So definitely bizarre. The class fantasy is completely lost from that ability, and that one I can understand huge frustration from. Then finally, it's Death Strike healing nerfs. You can see it is the talent that buffs Death Strike, and when we take a lot of damage, the healing we do based on the damage dealt is also nerfed by 50%. And those are big numbers. So, like I said, now 4 times, I understand the frustration. Let's talk about what each of these things mean. First of all, Death Strike. The minimum healing is not nerfed from Shadowlands. That is mathematically true, because the improved Death Strike talent, that is what's being nerfed here. Let me not point at the screen like a boomer and actually show you. The improved Death Strike talent is what's being nerfed here, not Death Strike's minimum healing itself. And the improved Death Strike talent was more impactful than the Shadowlands Conduit, which means nerfing it by 50% in PvP actually just makes it as good as Death Strike was in Shadowlands. Now, I know maybe Death Strike wasn't that great. Maybe you felt like you were dying to jungle, and you probably should be. And maybe Shadowlands wasn't your favorite iteration of DK, but trust me, I will get to that in a second. But yes, this is not really a nerf. It just means Dragonflight doesn't have a super buffed Death Strike. As for the burst response, that is nerfed. That is nerfed from its Shadowlands value. But health pools are much, much higher, which increases Death Strike's minimum healing by a lot, which means, okay, maybe you don't really have the slingshot, but in the full conquest gear, in the actual threes meta, it may be that the extended health pools make it so this nerf does not really come into play astronomically like it looks like it would when you just see the number 50% and you react to that. What? Are you kidding me? Remember, that was my first reaction too, but it's very possible that we would have been healing for 230k in some situations, and that just feels maybe a bit overkill. I mean, the whole point is to be a fun, well-designed, playable class, not that, whatever healing for 300k in a burst window was with full conquest gear. That's certainly a bit maybe excessive. So, two things about the Deathstrike nerfs. Maybe this doesn't come into play as much, and this does not impact the minimum healing below Shadowlands. It's not like all Deathstrike healing is nerfed by 50%. It was the improvement from the talent is nerfed by 50%, which means it's pulled back down to a just higher than Shadowlands level. Now, Will of the Necropolis, that's a huge gutting, but it's also a talent we never had, and it was just, 2 points, right? So putting that in for a 15% wall is something we never had access to, so it's still a buff over Shadowlands. It's just frustrating because you probably got used to how incredibly powerful it was before it got nerfed. As for all of the AMS-related things, I don't think we're going to have any trouble killing wizards. I think this was probably... Actually, I do believe that if you press these buttons like AMS, Zone, and you have Spell Warden against wizards post-nerf, that it was just AFK. Like, I feel like you could actually just probably walk up and do the Sea-Doo, walk away and get a sandwich while his Riptides were healing him in BFA. I bet you could probably just do that for a little while, because, I'm being a little exaggerative, but yes, our defensives against wizards is extremely high and is still extremely high, and Spell Warden didn't get touched, not giving them ideas. But yeah, Spell Warden did not get touched. Okay, so that's all of the things on the screen except for A-Bomb Limb. But I already said I don't agree with the A-Bomb Limb change. I mean, I'm sure it's extremely frustrating to play with, so maybe reduce the duration of A-Bomb Limb or the damage of A-Bomb Limb, but not completely take out what the ability does and only leave it as a damaging cooldown. I think it's so boring being a damaging cooldown. Just take it out of the game and put that damage into a different end cap and our other abilities. And while you're at it, take out Soul Reaper, because I hate that as a capstone. Okay, anyway, yeah, right. So A-Bomb Limb, I don't agree with. All the other things, I gave you a rationale as to why it might not be the end of the world. And that's the overview of the changes. But now let me segue into some other things here. First of all, and this is an important line. Let me scroll down and find it. We are finalizing additional tuning, and we will continue to keep an eye on class balance over the next week as we have additional adjustments planned for the week of December 13th. Now, I get it. When you see something like this, your brain is not immediately going to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt. I get that wholeheartedly. You're not saying, oh, you know what? I bet I'm going to trust exactly what they say and do, right? That's not what you're thinking about doing. But this is a pretty damning sentence. It says they have additional adjustment planned, and everybody knows DH is overtuned. Everybody knows Lock is overtuned. Shadow Priest, these specs, Sub-Rogue. These specs aren't sneaking under the radar. They're extremely high-populated specs with really high-profile players destroying people with them, right? So, and YouTube videos, like I've seen 100k views of a Shadow Priest video. I've seen the one shot of Sub-Rogue pretty much just pasted everywhere in every Discord. These things are not really flying under the radar. So if they have additional adjustments planned for the week of December 13th, which is, as they say, the beginning of the season, which means they're probably very PvP-centric, I would believe it's one of those things. And realistically, if you take in what I just said about the survivability nerfs, which again are frustrating, but then you add in those changes and had probably the severity of those changes for those other specs, and the fact that the survivability nerfs were not backbreaking even without those changes, you probably have an okay situation where you're okay. Everybody's okay, right? So that's a really important line. Now, that said, if they do nothing, if they just December 13th come and they're like, and like the tuning pass is like, Life Bloom healing is nerfed by 2% in a PvE environment and they forget about their PvP tuning at all, then I will make a video where I have a pitchfork and I just stand there and say, this is war, you know? But then we have to wait. We have to at least wait for December 13th to come, because it's possible that really sizable nerfs come from those overperforming specs. And yeah, okay, so it's a week later. They didn't have to give us a heart attack like this, but it doesn't matter. It's before the beginning of Season 1. What are you doing in between now and then? Destroying people in Battlegrounds? Maybe, yeah. Maybe we're probably overtuned as far as healing goes in Battlegrounds. I did about 14 million healing in longer BGs, so yeah, okay, so fine. It's fine to get that out now, right? So as long as, and this is the takeaway, the too long didn't read. Should I put that up above my head? Too long didn't read. I have no idea. If December 13th comes around and the next set of tuning passes addresses all of the classes that we know are overperforming, then it doesn't matter. All is fine. If it doesn't, it's time to freak out. Okay. All right, fine. So we'll take a look at what they have planned for December 13th, hopefully around that time, and I'll make another video then. But there's another part of this video. This is the, hey, by the way, DK is still really well-designed thing, so let's not pile on. And here's what I mean by that. DK talents and class design, offensive pressure, utility, double chains, even short AMS and short IBF. That wasn't even touched. No ideas, Blizzard. Do not get any ideas from that. But those things, those are part of our inherent class, not passive how much healing we do more than our healer, right? Not passive walls from Will of the Necropolis, but fast pillar, two-handed frost build, huge rhyme procs, RBG-centric builds, the disease build for rotting and shadow cleave and shadow priest unholy DK, the pet build for big gargoyles to actually be an important cooldown, huge burst windows, big two-handed obliterate hits that are only buffed by the tier set, by the way, so huge two-handed obliterate hits, or a dual wield fast ice cap build. These are all things that are still in the game and based on design, not based on numbers, right? That is more fun to do. There is no gushing wound, Heartstop Aura from BFA, and there is no 2-minute go. In fact, if anything, they're taking us away from our dependence on a bum limb, not toward us, which is okay, even though the class fantasy sucks now, because I don't want to be based around a 2-minute go. That's stupid. I mean, everybody's defensives and trinket is 2-minute. I want to be based around a 30-second go, so I can actually feel powerful frequently during the game. And yeah, if we're running on goes, let's say against certain comps, these nerfs make it so we do have to kind of dip out. Chains of Ice, the melee, and just dip out in between goes. Well, guess what? Even just getting Ice Cap value from dual wield during pillar when you're staying in still reduces it to below a 1-minute cooldown, which desyncs it from a lot of things and gets it right on the money with your chill streak cooldown if you are running that. So even if you have to dip out a little bit, you're still having faster goes than you had in Shadowlands by far, and you don't have gushing wounds and Heartstop Aura at all. So your abilities are more impactful to press, our offensive capabilities are still there. Unholy has Blind, Frost has Asphyxiate, both have Strangulate, they both have double chains, right? They both have short IBF. This is a lot of good stuff that should be kept in the game. So Blizzard, again, this is not me saying, oh yeah, see, we're still tremendously overpowered, because we're not. Just look at Demon Hunters if you want to see that. But no, we're not. But we have an incredible design and toolkit that will make the game fun to play. Now, don't look at the numbers for a second, but the game will be fun to play now. And if they do, because they did some pretty drastic changes in Legion too, and Legion Frost DK was rank 1 viable the entire expansion. So if they do tune properly and they take some of those higher specs down, then that means we have good design and the game is tuned properly. And we haven't had that for 6 years. So that is really important to think about. We only care about the design and if things are tuned properly. So when you see this, this could just be, I mean, again, they're not bouncing around BGs, but I heard some people on beta say, okay, maybe Will of the Necropolis makes us slightly immortal, and I don't think a class should ever be immortal, because nobody wants to play against Guardian Journeys or Prot Warriors or Prot Pallies in 3s and just lose a kill target because some guy chose a spec that was not really an obvious choice for a kill target. Now, DHs and Shadow Priests can kill anything, although Shadow Priests were really, really good into. DHs can certainly kill us. Fury has the tendency to do that with a 40% MS, but we're going to see what they do to those other specs come the start of the season. So there's your motivational spiel from me, because I think a lot of people need it right now. So yeah, that in a nutshell is what I think about these changes. If you need a too long didn't read, let me just put a timestamp here and do that. Number one, I understand your concern. These are big numbers. Number two, some of them are not quite as impactful as you think, as they may return it to still above Shadowlands levels as long as you read carefully what the nerfs actually do. Number three, the A-Bomb Limb class fantasy is completely gone, and I understand your frustration with that. Number four, more tuning passes are coming for other specs. Let's see what they do before we decide to be enraged or overjoyed. Number five, our class design is incredible, and having blind as Unholy is incredible, having asphyx as Frost is incredible, having fast goes is incredible, having build diversity is incredible. None of our damage was nerfed from any single one of these changes. Do not get any ideas, Blizzard. And that's what I think. So, yeah. I hope that helps in some way. Stay strong, DKs. We are powerful. Try out two-handed with the tier set bonus come the season start. It hits harder obliterates than I think you guys have seen in quite a long time. And Flarkness out. I will see you soon.